My motivation for doing this presentation is that I've seen many DBAs and developers, write lots of code, and over the years, there's been code editors that had things made a lot easier, and I still see people on the older technology, and I think they just don't know about what's available to make their life easier in terms of code editing. So I thought it would be a good idea to go over Visual Studio Code, which is currently one of the top code editors out there. So if you're doing any work right now and are only half listening, stop what you're doing, because at the end, this presentation may save you a lot of time in the future. So a lot of you may still be on old code editors like Notepad or Text Wrangler, or even Notepad++, which is actually pretty good, but it's still way behind what the more modern code editors can do. A lot of times you are on a remote system, so you may be using VI or Emacs. So Visual Studio Code can actually help you there too, because we can edit files remotely via SSH session. So the more current text editors, for me, it started with Sublime, which I used for several years and eased my workflow quite a bit. And Atom is very similar to Sublime. I think it's actually a fork of that, which is, from what I remember, a free version of that. And then a couple of years ago, VS Code came along, and I decided to switch to it and try it out. And first I was kind of meh. I still like Sublime better, but then it started growing on me. The toughest part switching was getting used to the new keyboard shortcuts. But once I had those under my fingers, it worked actually really, really well. So to get Visual Studio Code, you can go to this URL and download it. It's free, it's lightweight, it's cross-platform. So you really have no excuse to try it out. So why should you be using Visual Studio Code rather than maybe your old text editor? So it has syntax highlighting, and most text editors, even like Notepad++, have that now. It has snippets. Snippets are little pieces of code you can predefine and have them automatically insert code for you. For example, if you were to write a PL/SQL procedure, you type in a snippet shortcut, maybe the letters PROC, and then Visual Studio Code will build you the skeleton for the procedure, and you can tab through that procedure to fill in various things like variables and the actual procedure body and all that. One super great feature is the multi-select. So you can actually have multiple cursors in your editor and edit multiple lines at the same time. Symbol navigation helps you with navigating large pieces of code. For example, if you're editing a package body, you can, with a quick keyboard shortcut, jump to any procedure or function inside that package. And of course, Git integration is huge. If you are not using Git or some other source code control system right now, you seriously should be doing that. Accenture provides a Git repository or a Git website called innersource.accenture.com. This is where you can securely keep all your code and version control it. And VS Code will seamlessly integrate with that, which is really nice. And VS Code is also extensible through a large number of extensions, which will give you added functionality. So for example, I added a PL/SQL extension, which will give you smart PL/SQL code highlighting, and also various shortcuts for different things. There's extensions for Git to make the Git integration even better, and all kinds of other extensions, and I'll show you some of those a little later. And another nice thing is that, so VS Code is already a lightweight program, so it loads up in a sub-second, and even with a bunch of extensions turned on, it's still fast and doesn't feel bloated, which is really, really nice. VS Code also allows you to easily refactor your code. Again, this is done with various keyboard shortcuts. It has side-by-side editing, so maybe you need to copy and paste code from one package to another, and you can open them side by side and maybe see differences and that sort of thing. IntelliSense helps you with auto-completion. So once you define a variable at the beginning of your code, then you can easily have IntelliSense fill that variable name in. So if you have been shy of short variable names because they just take so much time to type, you don't have to be shy anymore. The command palette is your window to everything inside of VS Code, and I'll show you that. The command palette is invoked through a keyboard shortcut, and it allows you to access many of the VS Code functions without ever leaving the keyboard with your hands and using the mouse. The peeking function is real nice. So if you have a procedure or a variable defined in your code, you can simply hover over that and peek at the declaration of that particular item, or you could right-click on it and jump to the definition if you need to do some editing. And with a little bit of extra work, you can actually have VS Code compile your PL/SQL inside your database, which is really nice. As I mentioned before, you can do remote editing, which means you can edit code through an SSH connection. VS Code helps you to stay organized visually by what you would typically do. For example, if you keep your code on GitHub, you would open the GitHub folder, you see your entire code tree in there, and you can easily navigate back and forth, and it's a really nice tool for that. It has a built-in terminal, so if you are, for example, compiling PL/SQL code from within VS Code, you can see actually terminal feedback in a small terminal window. If you're editing other code like JavaScript or Python, you can actually execute it right there from within VS Code without having to switch back and forth to the terminal window. It has a debugger built in, which is very useful for Python, JavaScript, other languages. Unfortunately, because of the nature of PL/SQL, you can't really debug it from within VS Code. So for that, you would still have to go to a SQL developer or a third-party tool. It has a nice find feature, which actually allows you to find code within files of your directory tree. And you can also do search and replaces, right? So let's say you had some DBMS output code in all of your files, and you wanted to change that to an HTTP print, for example. You could do it with just a single command through your find feature, and it would do it throughout all the files in your directory tree. So that's a quick overview, and I'm going to jump back and forth here between the Keynote and the VS Code. The first thing, these are pretty much just notes for me. I want to give you a UI overview, show you the Explorer, the find options, the Git integrations, debug extension, and settings. So these are pretty much all the things that you'll see on the left side of the editor. So, all right. So here's VS Code. On the far left side, you have navigation icons to the main functions of VS Code. And as you click on these icons, you open these particular things. So the first one's the File Explorer. So what I have here is I opened a directory from my hard drive called ESCP. And this happens to be a Git control directory. And I can see all my folders right below there. The next one is that search function, where I can search through text, search text within my files and do replaces as well. And you can also use regular expressions in your searches. This icon here is the Git integration. This icon will show you what changes have been made since last time you committed to Git. And you can see the badge tells me already there's one file that has changed, and here's the file name. And I can click on that, and I can see what the file contents is. So here I've actually done nothing. So let me just delete that file and clean things up. So right now my Git repository is clean. There's been no changes. This is the debug icon. So if you're working on JavaScript or Python or some other language, this is just a regular debugger. Works like any other debugger, where you can step you through your code, see variable values, put watches, and so forth. This square icon here, this is where your extensions are. So if you need a particular extension, for example, Martin says he's working on Azure, right? So maybe there's an Azure Terraform extension that may be usable. So you can click on that. It will give you in the main window an overview of what the extension does, give you links to the actual repository. This is where it is on GitHub. You can see how many people downloaded and what the rating is from all that. And if you wanted to install that, all you have to do is click the install button, and it downloads it and installs it. And that's pretty much it. Once it's installed, you probably get like a reload button that says, yeah, reload to activate. And now my Azure Terraform extension is installed and it's active. So if I click on here, it gives me the option to disable this or uninstall it. So if I want to get rid of it, I just do that, and that's gone. So on the top part here, you see all the extensions that I have already enabled. So here's a cool little bracket pair colorizer. So this gives you different colored pairs of brackets, so it's easier to kind of debug your code. I have a plugin or an extension for Docker, emojis. So if you want to type emojis in your code, that's a lot of fun. There are a couple of Git extensions that help me use Git a little easier, and here's the PL SQL package that gives you some extra PL SQL functionality and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. And if you are just looking for anything in the extensions, the extension search is a fuzzy search. So if I wanted something with Python, for example, I can just see what those extensions are, research those, and install them. So the extension functionality is super easy in VS Code. In Sublime, it was a little more difficult. You had to download packages and then put them in the folder and all that. It was a little more painful, but this is super easy. I have a couple of other extensions already installed. Here's one, a Postgres extensions that I've been playing with. I've got one for Terraform, for Docker. This is actually really nice. It allows me to see what sort of images I have installed in Docker, and this is what's running on my laptop right now. Here are the running containers. I can control them from here. I can, start the container, show the logs or whatever. So that's a really nice Docker integration. And this one is GitLens. It's another extension that kind of helps you work with Git. At the very bottom here are your settings. And let me pull this up a little higher. So here's where you can invoke the command palette, which is your window to everything inside of VS Code. You can edit the user settings, edit your extensions, keyboard shortcuts. This one is really handy. If you want to know how to do certain things, it'll show you the command. You can also search here. So for example, how do I join lines? Okay, here's my key binding for the join lines, which is done here through an extension. Really nice. And let's see what else. Color themes. So you have various color themes you can use. Your user snippets. This is what I talked to you about automatic code completion. File icon theme. Well, this may seem a little trivial. I actually found this very nice. So I have an icon theme called Material Icons. And what that does, if I go back to my Explorer, this is what gives you the nice little icon. So if I have a JavaScript, it gives me a JavaScript icon. For JSON files, it'll give me that. SQL files have a little database. Here's my git ignore file. So this just gives you a nice visual feedback of your file system. Quite nice a helper. So. And this is the basic overview of VS Code and the code editor. So we'll take a first look at the command palette. And what's really nice about the command palette is everything is fuzzy. So any sort of command you want to enter is done with fuzzy searches. Even your IntelliSense is done with fuzzy searches, which means you don't have to type the exact name of the thing you're looking for, but you can just enter the character sequence that may be unique to that name, and the command palette will find that. So to get there, you use Command-Shift-P on a Mac, or you can invoke it here from your settings. But of course, keyboard shortcuts is where we want to be. So let me open up a file here. This is just a package body. And you'll see the code is nicely highlighted. On the far right here, I have a little map of all my code. So I can easily navigate through my code using this in like more of a visual manner, which is really nice. And then the command palette, here's Command-Shift-P, gets me to that. And so as I start typing, it will find things in here. So for example, if I want to do a git command, so I can type in git, and maybe I want to do commit, so I can just continue typing com, and it gets me to git commit. And I can navigate through the other commands here with my arrow. The most recently used command will always show up at the top. So whatever, if you use one particular command often, then it will be much faster there. So the other thing, the next thing is going to be starting VS Code from the command line. So if you open up a terminal window, so let me open this up here. Let me go to my So I have all my code on my laptop. I put inside a folder called dev. So I'm going to cd to dev. And within here, I have directories for all my GitHub clones and for all my inner source clones. So I'm going to cd to inner source. So inner source is again Accenture's Git repository. And so I have a whole bunch of projects in there. So if I go, for example, to, let's see, cd to OCI API. And this is a Git controlled directory. By the way, there's a little bash extension I can share with you that what it does. If you navigate into a Git controlled directory, it'll show you automatically the branch, and it's kind of a nice way to know, oh, I'm in a Git controlled directory. So now if I wanted to open up VS Code from in here, I simply type code dot, and here I am inside that folder, and all my files are here. Very easy to edit. So in order to do that, let me open my Bash profile. And I have an alias. I thought I had an alias. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's for a different thing. That's actually built in with when you install Visual Studio Code. So, come on. So you actually get an executable script inside of the code directory, which will invoke Visual Studio Code for you when you use this syntax here. So that's a really neat little feature. All right, let's do some editing. So this is one of the really, really powerful things in Visual Studio Code. There's a few things that you may want to remember. And once you have those things under your fingers, then editing will be really easy. So first, let's look at the multi-cursor. So whenever I have a particular variable, for example, I can highlight that variable, and then with a Command D, select the next occurrence. And if I continue to press Command D, it will select the next occurrence of that particular variable or string. If I use Command Shift L, it will automatically select all occurrences, right? So let's go back to my PL/SQL code here. And let's say I have this variable right here. So I'm going to press Control D, and it jumps to the next occurrence of that. Control D again, Control D again. So here, it looped around already. At the bottom, you can see I have 3 selections selected. So vice versa, I could highlight this and hit Control Shift L. And it shows me here that I've got 3 selections. And now this is highlighted along with all the other occurrences of that string. So you got a blinking cursor here and here. Now, if I start typing, I can make changes to all of these. For example, I want to refactor that, and I want to rename it to, so I hit backspace to erase and start typing L node array, right? So now all these occurrences have been changed just by typing it once. So this is really nice. I'm going to undo this. You can also do a vertical selection just with your mouse. So if I hold the mouse on one line and hit Shift Option, and then just go down in the same column and click left click again with my mouse, it gives me all these cursors, right, that I can now use to. So maybe I want to change this to a V, right? There we go. Let me undo this change. Or I can do the same thing if I put my cursor here and I do a Shift Option click maybe over here, then it will select that entire rectangular block, and I can make changes to that. So one thing that goes hand in hand with this vertical selection or multi-select are the navigation keys. So you navigate through your code with arrows, so up, down, left, right, and you can hold down the Option key to jump a word. So if you want to highlight an entire word, you do Option right shift. Or if you want to jump to the beginning of the end of the line, you use your Command key. And again, if you're on Windows, these are going to be the Alt and Control keys. And I can't remember which one is which, but you'll figure that out in a second. So what I can do with that is, let's say I want to highlight all these variables here. Let's say just these first ones. And so I put my cursor here, and I want to highlight all the variable names without any white spaces. I'm going to hold Option Shift and the right arrow. Now I've got just the text of those variables highlighted, and I can make changes to that. So if maybe I wanted to add something else to them, like something like that, right? So that's really neat. Or let me undo that. Or maybe I want to add something to the end of the line, right? So again, I do a highlight here. And I can, with Command right arrow, I just jump to the end of the line, and I can start typing here. So once you get these keyboard shortcuts under your fingers, it'll be really fast to do multi-editing. So I want to give you a little demo of what I use this for, and this shouldn't take too long. So let me open up a browser here, and I'm going to go to Amazon.com. Log in here real quick. And I'll go to my EC2 instances. And what I want to do is I want to create, you see this pull down list here? It has all the regions for Amazon. And I want to put these in a collection in PL/SQL. And I want to do this without having to type very much. So what I do, I know a little bit of HTML. I can inspect this code. And I see here is a division with all these various links to those regions. And I can see that they all start with an anchor tag, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all this HTML and paste it into my editor here. And I know that I don't need the div tags. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to jump to the beginning of the line. And here's another div that I don't need. And there's also the span I don't need. So I've already looked at that previously. So I just know that I don't need this. So what I'm left here is with a super long line that has all the anchor tags in it, right? And this is hard to edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight a unique character sequence that I think will identify all the anchor tags, then hit Command-Shift-L, highlight the rest of them. So I have 14 selections, as you can see down here. With the arrows, I go to the beginning of the selection. Now I hit Return, and now I have everything on a single line. And I still have my multiple cursors. So now what I want to do, I want to get rid of the HTML in here. So if I scroll to the right, this is really what I want to get to, right? It's the names of these regions. And I want to put those in a SQL collection. So again, I'm going to look for a unique string that'll help me navigate through this quickly. And this would be like the end of the tag. So the single quote greater equals. So if I highlight one of those, hit Shift-L to highlight the rest of those, and then hit Shift-Command left arrow to go to the beginning of the line and highlight everything to the beginning of the line. I can now hit Enter, and I got rid of that HTML. And oh yeah, I want to get rid of those two characters as well. So I do that. And now all I have to do is delete the rest of the anchor tag. So with Command-Shift right arrow, I jump to the end of the lines. 1, 2, 3, 4 deletes, and I'm here. So I easily extracted this from the web page. One other really cool thing about the multi-select is that you can do a multi-select copy. So like I said, I wanted to add a wanted to do this with a PL SQL collection, right? So what I'm going to do is, again, I'll just do a vertical select here with Shift Option. So now I get everything in here. And I want to highlight just the names of these regions without the, oh no, let me do it the other way around, actually. I'm going to highlight the short names of the actual locations in the brackets. So I'm going to highlight one opening bracket, or one opening parenthesis, select all of them, right arrow to clear my highlight, and then I jump to the end of the line, jump one back to skip the parenthesis, and now I've got all the names of these regions highlighted, and I do a Command C for copy. Copy all that, jump back to the beginning of the line, and now I can actually start typing some PL SQL code. And I want to put this in a collection called L region. And I'm going to have that indexed by varchar. And the region names are going to be the index. So I'm going to paste here. So this was just a Control V, and it pasted everything per line. Close my parentheses, equals, and now I need to put the rest of the code in parentheses. So I do a Shift Command, hit the end of the line, and now I just hit a single quote, and it's going to put everything in the highlighted text inside of single quotes. Oops, it's supposed to. I don't know why I didn't do that. Okay, so I'll do it the other way. I put a single quote here, jump to the end, put a single quote there, and put a semicolon. And now I'm going to turn on my syntax highlighting, which is a keyboard shortcut. Oops. And I'll say PL SQL. So now it's easier to read. So you can see how this multi-select works wonders, really. To finish this off, what I want to do is, actually, you've got some code here that I can just paste in, so save some time. So I have a declaration here. I build a collection based on varchar2. I'm going to indent this to make it look pretty. And I have a procedure here. Now, let's say I want to dbms output all of this, right? So I want to dbm output each one of these variables. Again, I find something unique to highlight. Command-Shift-L to highlight all that. And, well, this was not going to work. Actually, I'm going to have to go here and highlight the equal sign. Go back. And do a highlight this way. Copy. Paste. Do another highlight here. Go to the beginning, and now I can say something like dbms output put line, open parentheses, jump to the end. So again, with the cut and paste, you know, I can easily write repetitive code with this.
Because
right,
we've got a question. We've got a question here. When you were working on the upper of those two code blocks, is there a way that you can format or align those colon equal signs as well, so that they kind of all?
Yeah, there is an extension. I can't remember. It's not PL SQL specific, and for me, it didn't do a very good job. But what I do is there's a website called EP River, and it has a SQL formatter in it. And I can put this in the chat, and it'll allow you to format for different databases. So you can put it in here, and then you have, you know, all kinds of different properties you can set to align your code. And I think you may be able to do. I'm not sure if it aligns equal signs or not. That's a good question. Maybe we need to put. I need to find an extension for that.
Okay, thanks.
Sometimes, yeah, I do that manually. So, but out here, let me put this in the chat, if I can. Oh, I guess I can't. But anyways, so yeah, one more thing is wanted to demonstrate really quick is the navigate to symbol. So I have a large package here with lots of functions, and I want to jump to a particular function, right? So I can hit the Command Shift O. This gives me the symbol navigator. And here you see it found all the functions and procedures inside my package. And now I can either click on it, or I can use the fuzzy search logic to quickly jump. Let's say I want to go to clob to blob, right? So all I have to type here is clob, blob, and it found that. So just a unique sequence of characters found that function. I hit enter, and it navigated there automatically. So that's really nice. So let me talk a little bit about remote editing. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to demo all this, but if you want to edit text remotely, you need to install a little package called RMate, and it's a Python package, so you do have to have Python 2.7 or version 3 installed. But once you've installed that, you can create yourself a little alias, like I did here. So I call it code, and it invokes RMate for port 52698. And I just add that to my bash profile. So what that will do is it will open a text file and send it to that port. In VS Code, what you can do then is enable the remote editing extension. So let me pull that up real quick. I'll call this remote. So remote VS Code. So you can simply download that, and you can. It's automatically configured for that particular port. And I have it set to start up automatically whenever I start up VS Code. So in order to be able to edit code through an SSH connection, you need to use remote forwarding for that port. And just to make it easy on me, I use the SSH config file. So if you're not familiar with that, let me show it to you. This kind of like a TNS names file where you can put shortcuts to various hosts that you want to do SSH connection to. So you specify the host name, the user, an identity file. So this is your RSA key. And then you would, in order to get VS Code to work remotely, you would have to add these two lines, forwarding agent yes, and then what the port is. So if I navigate now to this host, Cloud Tools, so let me do it over here. All I have to do is type in SSH Cloud Tools, and it gets that alias from that config file and connects there. And now I'm connected. So let me see, I've got some files in here, and let me go to dev and SQL. And so let me open up this login. So I'm going to say code login SQL, and here it is. It opened it in VS Code. I add some code and I hit Control S to save it. Now if I go back to here, and I can see that it added that. So, but now I'm going to take that out, save that again, and it's gone. So remote editing, super powerful feature, especially if you need to, edit large files, and VI is just not the best tool for that sometimes. And the last big thing I want to show you is compiling PL SQL code from within within VS Code. So to do that, it's a little more tricky. What you need in order to do that is actually SQL-CL, and which is the new the replacement pretty much for SQL+. So if you haven't tried that out, I encourage you to. It's a really nice command line editor for Oracle databases. It has a lot of really neat shortcuts. You can actually write scripts in other languages for that. So you could write Python scripts or JavaScript to add your PL SQL code. One nice feature about Oracle SQL CL is that it allows you to do a SSH tunnel. So once you're logged into SQL CL, you can use this command, SSH tunnel user identity file, and then do a port forwarding here. So 8881 is my local port. It's going to be forwarded to my local host, and it's forwarding the remote port 1521. So once I've done that, I can connect to the database at localhost at that new port and the SID or service name. And then I can actually start editing files on that remote machine. And that's done through SSH tunnel, which is really nice. In order to get it to work with VS Code, I also add another shell script here. And this is actually what VS Code will call. So it calls the SQL CL binary, doesn't log in, and then executes this SQL command with one parameter, which is going to be the file that I'm currently editing in VS Code. It passes that file on to the Scott SQL script, executes it, and then simply exits. So if I, one more thing you need to do in VS Code is actually configure a task. So tasks are little executable things you want VS Code to do. So anytime you want to do a shell script or something, you can do that through a VS Code task, which again can be accessed through the command palette. And to edit tasks, everything is done with a JSON format. I give it a name. I tell it the command. So this is that shell script I showed you in the previous slide. And it says, yeah, it's a shell command. And for the arguments, I'm going to pass it the current file. So in order for the file to be able to be compiled remotely, you need to save it first. So let me show you how that works. So let me go back to my untitled here, and I'm going to save this. Show my Explorer here. And I'm going to save it as not sure what happened here. It jumped to a different directory, which is kind of weird. What do I call this? regions. So it showed up here now. And oh, by the way, since I'm hooked up to GitHub, it added that little U that says this is an untracked file. So I may want to commit this later in GitHub. So what I want to here is create or replace procedure regions is, so that's that. I'm going to put a / down here, save this, and now I'll go to my command palette and look for my task runner, and it says run task, so I just hit enter. And here are a few tasks that I previously defined. And so this one is actually compiling my code in my Gluent database. So I hit enter here, and then we can see what's going on. So it invokes SQLCL, there's a port tunnel, and oh yeah, I've got an error up here, so I guess I don't need this thing. So I save it again, run the task one more time. See if it compiles now. And there we go. Well, there we are, procedure created. Then one more quick word about Git, since we're on the subject. So I have a new untracked file here. If I go to my Git icon on the left, it shows me, hey, there's a change that's not tracked in Git. So I click on that, and it shows me, oh yeah, here are all the files that have been changed. So I'll click on that, and if it were just a modification, it would actually give me a diff, but since it's a new file, it doesn't. So I can say, hey, I want to add this to my next commit point. Now it's staged. I can give it a commit message, hit control return, command return, and now it's committed in Git. And you can see the badge cleaned up here. And so now I could do a push, which I can do also from within here. If I make a change now to this file, let's say I want to add a comment, save this, and again, it automatically realized there's a change, and now it's got an M next to it, which means it's modified. I click on it, and now I see the diff right away. So here line 6 has changed. If I want to undo the change, I can simply hit the undo icon here, discard changes, and my file is back to normal. And if I want, so I have a previous commit here, right? So through the command palette, I can also do my Git commands. So Command-Shift-P for the command palette, and I can type in push, and it says git push to origin. And then it will, as you can see in the output down here, connect to inner source and push my changes up to the inner source repository. All right, that's it. So here's a, for key bindings, there's a little cheat sheet that's available on the Visual Studio website. And that brings me to the end of the presentation, and we have a few minutes left for questions.